I don't think there's a great deal of doubt that to create the very best quality monochrome images, we need to start the manipulation with a well exposed raw image. However, there are always going to be those odd times when we have a completed image and we want to convert it to monochrome. In those circumstances, we could turn our attention to the camera raw filter. Now, in those situations, even though we wouldn't be working with a true raw file with all of the latitude which that allows, we can still use the camera raw tools because one, we're used to them, and two, they're still pretty powerful even with a JPEG or a Photoshop file. So let's take a look at this image which I shot quite a few years ago. It's an image that I want to convert to black and white. Now I can open this straight up into Camera Raw by going to my Filters menu, and there's the option. But what we could do before we make a start is to actually change this layer into a smart object. It's not going to be the same as a raw file as a smart object, but it will give us access back to make change on top of any changes we make. So if we make a mistake or change our mind, we've got some flexibility there. So if we take a quick look at the layers, it's just a basic standard layer. It could be a JPEG or a Photoshop file. I'm going to go to my Layers menu at the top of the screen, down to Smart Objects, and I'm going to convert this image to a smart object. Now nothing seems to have happened, but when we go back into the layers, of course, we see that familiar little symbol on the bottom right. But now I can go up to the Filter menu and choose Camera Raw Filter. Once Camera Raw appears on screen, it looks very much the same as we're used to, although if you look along the top left, you'll notice that you don't have the ability to crop the image, because Photoshop has recognized that this isn't a raw file and you'll be doing your cropping in Photoshop. But what we can do here is convert this to monochrome. Throughout the rest of the videos within this set, I've generally gone to the saturation control to make any start on converting this to a black and white, but there is another way we can do that. We can go to our options, hue, saturation, luminance and grayscale, and when I tick the convert to grayscale, you can see that it converts it pretty well for us. But we may still want to make some changes. The one thing we need to remember with this is when we open this picture up into Photoshop, if we then decided to add a sepia tone, we've got to change it back to RGB. But let's move to the Basic tab, because if we're going to make a black and white, let's see if we can crank a little bit of that clarity in, which is so nice. We've got quite a bit of contrast coming through. I'm going to say that perhaps we've got a little too much. Do we want the highlights to be brought down a bit, to balance them a little more with the shadows? We're all going to choose something different, but we've got all of the control we need here. The one thing we've got with this particular shot is a particularly even sky. We've got some tone in the sky, but we haven't got clouds. Now I could use my graduated filter tool, select it, click and drag from the top, and I could put a bit of tone into the top. Maybe I could even use the same sort of tone in the bottom, just to give a bit of a base for the picture to sit on. Maybe something like that. The problem sometimes with the manipulation we see is that when we do something like what I've done at the top here, it encroaches on things like the chimneys. So what I'd be doing here, I would be making a change. And by the way, when you drag out these filters, sometimes they can be a bit difficult to control when you want to get them at the right angle. So if it does start to wave around a little bit, then drag it down to the level that you think is right. If you move your cursor up a little bit, you'll find you've got a lot more control. Just a little tip that may help. What I was about to say though is I want to remove the shading from those two chimneys. Now I think what I may do just before I tackle that shading on the chimney, I think I'll drop my exposure down even more, just so we can see what we're doing a bit easier. Now if you look at the graduated filter options, we have a brush, and if I check that brush, I've got a plus and a minus. I'm going to choose minus. I get the ability to adjust the size of the brush, and I can do that with the slider, or I can use the square bracket keys. I can feather the edge of the brush so I can keep it a bit tighter, and you can see the inner ring is the solid part and the outer ring is the soft part. So as I move this up, there you can see the difference, or if I go down the other way. And of course we've got the ability to adjust the flow as well. So I'm going to zoom in to the top of that. I'm going to get it very big, I think, because the last thing I want to do here is to leave a halo around the outside. So I want to bring the brush down. You'll notice with this brush you'll get to a certain point and it'll disappear. So that's the lowest I can go. I'm going to click in that area, and you can see a little change there, and I can just move along here and start to paint in the area that I want lightened. Now if you'd rather, you can click, hold the shift key and click a short distance away, and you'll notice that it works between two straight lines all the way down. Now that's very useful. I find this very easy to control. You can do it in smaller steps if you wish, and you don't have to go too near the edge. But that shift click method you'll find pretty useful. Now all I've got to do is go all the way down, of course. Let me do that again. So click, hold the shift key, go down here and click again. Get a bit closer maybe. And do this side as well. Click, hold the shift, click, move all the way down, and as we go down, of course, the effect of the brush is going to be petering out. Although I've got it so enlarged, we've got to go down a fair degree, but you can see it's beginning to do that now. So we'd go down both sides in exactly the same manner, and then I will take a bit of care to take away the shading in the middle. Now this sort of work demands a bit of care, because there's nothing worse in trying to do this sort of thing to get that shading off the top of the buildings and the hills, and in our case the chimneys here, which we see quite often, if we're going to leave evidence that we've done it. The idea is to do it without leaving any evidence. And of course what we've done here is no different to what we would do in Photoshop with a layer mask. And although I've demonstrated this technique here, I have to tell you that my best way of working, or my favourite way of working I should say, I should never say best because one person's best is not the same as another's, but my favourite way of working is still with the layer mask in Photoshop. And we could have done that here too. But we've managed to change this into quite a nice monochrome image. But there's still one or two little points we could possibly deal with. Let me go and pick up my adjustment brush. Now looking over here, let's drop the exposure down a little bit. We've got a little bit of lightness around here, which is maybe a bit distracting. Maybe a little bit on the water, just to tone it down a little bit. Couple of areas, a little bit on the foliage maybe. But we've made a fairly agreeable monochrome image here, and let me click OK to open this up into Photoshop. Now if we take a look in layers though, what we've got is the ability to live with this for a little while. We could save it as a Photoshop file, for example, open it up tomorrow. I can double click Camera Raw here and go straight back in and carry on working where I left off. Even my graduated filters and my adjustment brushes are all still in place. So if I wanted to come back and I felt I could get a lot more impact by making it darker, then I can do so. And I can do that as many times as I wish, because Photoshop is recalling the original information within this picture, so we're not making an editing change on top of an editing change. We're always working from the base file, which we started off as a color one. The other thing you'll notice we have is a mask. So if you were looking to do some of that strategic color work, then you've got the opportunity to do that too. With the mask selected, we can pick up black, a soft edge brush. We can zoom in to whatever we want to have colored, and that's a little bit too much. Let me back off a bit. That will do for demonstration purposes. I'll push my flow rate up to about 50% because I'm just going to give you a flavor of this, so I'm not going to do it all. But there, as you can see, it wouldn't be too difficult to mask through color in any strategic location that we felt was desirable. And the Smart Object status will remain for as long as we save this as a Photoshop file. But here the intention was to make a monochrome. So with my mask selected, I'm going to flood it with white to take away the color. White is my background color, so Control Backspace will always flood a background color. And of course at some stage we would want to flatten to finish. So we can make our monochromes using the Camera Raw filter.